Advocate Mdivo will be joining us shortly, together with Honorable Alice Wahome, Member of Parliament for Kandara. But let's immediately get into the big stories in the paper this morning. I'll start with the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto allied Member of Parliament links Uhuru Kin to sugar. And just under that headline, but papers tabled in Parliament show that although Uhuru Kenyatta's firm is licensed to import sugar, possibly for use in dairy processing, it did not bring in any during the duty-free scandal window opened by Treasury last year. And if you want to get the details of that story, you'll turn to page 2 of the same paper. Political drama in MP's bid to draw Uhuru Kin into sugar import scam. And let me just take you through one or two paragraphs briefly. The 1 billion kilogram sugar scandal took a dramatic political turn yesterday when an MP allied to Deputy President William Ruto drew President Uhuru Kenyatta's family into the corruption saga in what would later in the evening shape into a spectacular escalation of political infighting and apparent ill will. Aldai MP Cornelia Serem said the president's brother, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta's company, Protech Investment Limited, had imported about 180,000 metric tons of brown sugar into the country and alleged a plot to shield the younger Kenyatta from investigation. However, documents presented to the National Assembly showed that while Protech had been licensed to import sugar, possibly for use in the dairy plant owned by the family, it did not import a single kilogram. All right, so of course that obviously leading to a lot of discussion about, and that's, I guess, why the Daily Nation has gone with the headline, Ruto allied MP. You could have just said MP, but they went with that particular headline. Let me allow Honorable Wanga to give me her views on this. Since we last talked about sugar, I think that's what we were talking about the last time you were here, and get your views on this as well.
Well, I think we can see that the Third World War is breaking out within Jubilee. I think this matter of sugar, unfortunately, is taking a very political turn, because it means that because of these shenanigans, we might never really be able to get to the bottom of this matter. But you can see where from the moment this matter began in Parliament, when the question was raised first, the matter was referred to the Committee on Trade by the Speaker. But then later on, the following day, we saw an attempt by some members within Jubilee, in precisely the whip actually, Honorable Ashali, coming to the Speaker and saying, does this matter really belong to trade?
Or what, agriculture?
Doesn't it belong to agriculture? You know, and you can see what turn that was taking. Where is the committee that we have our person as chair who can go and defend our interests? So when there was a push and pull, then some of us felt maybe it is too broad for just one committee. Maybe we should set up a select committee dealing specifically with this matter. But then the people, so the Speaker was forced to now bring in trade and agriculture. and this is how we got there. It was politics. It was not that trade could not, because these were matters of consumer protection. These were matters of counterfeits. These were matters that fell within the purview of the trade committee. I mean, agriculture would have come in if there were, you know, there was sugarcane growing and there were issues with that, or fertilizer or what have you. But then this is where we came from. And then you see now in the committee what is happening. You could see how agitated a member of parliament from Aldai was, you know, I have to speak, you know, I must say this. No, give me a chance, you know. And what was he trying to say? Waki unveil na sisi tuna unveil, waki point fingers na sisi tuna point. You know, it is a matter of they are bringing the war on corruption, as I've had them say on the corridors, to the doorstep of the president, and he must feel the pinch himself, and with the hope that this matter will then disappear. But I hope that that is not what the president is going to do. I hope he is only going to intensify, because you can see, of course, his company was being mentioned, Lord Mohoho's company was being mentioned with such vigor, but you discover then as you go on that they actually did not import, and therefore the matter that we are dealing with of poisonous sugar does not necessarily touch directly on them, or at least on this particular company that was the veil was being lifted on in the committee. So
but wouldn't you say that the damage has already been done?
Seriously,
perception, I think, is huge.
Of course, and whatever was the intention to be achieved has been achieved. You know, the president has already been implicated, or his family has already been implicated, and this is the same thing you remember that happened with the oil company Petro. You know, when we were doing NYS at the height of it, the company Petro Oil, which is also you know, associated with the Uhuru scheme, was brought in. And what is being told is, you know, if you really push us and press us where it hurts, we will hit back. But as I said that time, I hope the president's resolve will be unshaken in this war against counterfeits, war against corruption. I hope he will be, and maybe there will be casualties. We don't know. I mean, like we said that time, maybe there will be casualties who are even close to him. But let us not stop, because what is being told is stop because you're going too far. We are targeted. Some people are targeted. You know, Wahiga, a story is told of a man who beat his wife because she had eaten all the fish. That fish is called fulu. So when the man went to the home of his wife to pick his wife because his wife had gone away, he was brought a lot of this fulu fish, and then everybody just kept on passing and saying, "Eat fulu, eat fulu. You haven't eaten fulu yet," you know, and so on. So the president is saying, "Oh, it's corruption. Let's fight it. Let us fight it. We will fight it." You know, and this is the tone. You know, you hear people like the majority leader, Honorable Dwale, speaking. You hear the tone is, "We will fight corruption." You know, the president wants us to fight corruption. We will fight it, and we will fight it to. And you can see that they're saying we will fight it to every corner. And
so in the midst of all this, where is ODM?
I mean, we are doing our oversight role without vendetta, but now the war is too big within Jubilee itself. We are forced to just sit back and also look and see, you know, because these people are both in government. They know where to obtain information from. So more and more information is coming out. So you know, ourselves, we will sit back and see what exactly is going to come out of this. But what we don't want is for this war, this internal squabbling, to derail to make us lose focus from the bigger picture. I think Kenyans must keep against corruption. Focus on the bigger picture, the fight against counterfeits, against corruption broadly. Let us keep focus. Let us not be derailed, because what these people want us to do is to be derailed.
In a nutshell,
is to lose focus, is to run away from what really are the issues. And the issues are, people brought sugar, not just sugar. People brought poisonous sugar, and Kenyans are consuming poisonous sugar. The issues are that because of these imports, and you can see the extent of these imports, you know, our people who are farmers in the sugar belt are having to contend with collapsed factories. How do we revive our sugar industries? How can we still continue to import sugar while our companies are on their knees? Can our own millers, who claim to be our millers, import the entire sugar and repackage it and then say that, oh, we are producing Mdivo sugar, like Homa Bay, where I come from? We have the Mdivo Sukari Industries. Mdivo Sukari Industries, our farmers can hardly get paid anything. I mean, we are not really benefiting. All we are suffering from damaged infrastructure and so on. But you can see that probably these people don't care, because they don't really care about the cane coming from the farmers. They are importing all the sugar, and they're not even importing it to process it. They're just importing it to repackage it.
Former Senator Boni Halwale has been on record saying several times in different TV stations that he believes that, first of all, importing is necessary and that it should be done by the millers because they know the deficit. Do you agree with him? Well,
my own position is, can we, in the face of what is happening, can we ban all imports? My own view. Ban all imports. Ban. Let us see how much sugar we ourselves can produce. Then the so-called shortfall which we keep talking about, can Kenyans bridge it by reducing their own consumption of sugar? You know, can we reduce our consumption? You know, of sugar. If you are putting 2 spoons, just put 1, so that the so-called shortfall can be dealt with. Because we cannot be saying that we have to import, yet what are we producing? Nothing. All our companies have collapsed. Waihiga, myself, I have grown up from a sugar. I have literally been educated from sugarcane, because my grandfather and my father, those were all sugarcane farmers in the Moroni Chemelil belt. Miwani, Mohoroni, Chemelil, those were very, very vibrant companies in those days. In fact, our parents were rich because of sugarcane. As a result
of that, because of sugarcane.
They were the village rich people because of sugarcane.
In your personal opinion, what then changed?
What changed is, as we continued to import cheap, you know, sugar and did not pay attention, you know, there was the continuous marginalization also because of our political stands and so on. There was the continuous marginalization, economic, of those regions. And therefore, the necessary, you know, subsidies and so on that our cane farmers, that our factories were supposed to get in order to boost production went down. And then the companies started going down one by one. How can we say we have a deficit when the companies are closed? Chemelil is closed, Moroni is closed, Miwani is closed, Nzoia, Mumias, Sony, none of them is performing. So what are we talking about here? Yet you tell us we have a deficit. If our companies were producing sugar at their optimum, then we would be talking about a deficit. We would understand, because we would all be saying our production is at optimum, but yet we cannot meet the demand.
Are you concerned, for example, when you look at the front page of the Standard, furious MPs accuse Interior CS of showing contempt for Parliament by snubbing numerous committee summons. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, in a sense, has a pattern in that so far, at least in several instances, he has failed to show up before a committee that has summoned him, and usually the regret letter comes at the very last minute. Does that concern you as a legislator?
I think CS Matiang'i should appear before Parliament. He should appear, and he's doing a very, very good job as far as these contrabands are concerned. Actually, you need a person of his resolve to be able to deal with these issues. And we must say, you know, where it's good, it must be said. And I can tell you that right now, he is a man under, let me say, siege, as as the former police commissioner IG would say. You know, he's a man because of his stand on the matters of just, you know, being firm. When Kebs were trying to dilly-dally, he threw them all into, you know, cells. They had to, you know, they have been charged there with importation of, actually, I mean, of fertilizer that is, if you look at those documents, Waihiga, you would cry for Kenyans, because if mercury is supposed to be like 0.3 milligrams per cent, it is now 3 point something. You know, this is the fertilizer that we are putting on Kenyans' food and so on. So we need a person of Matiang'i's resolve to deal with this matter. But he's under siege. He's under siege from the cartels and everybody. But that is not to say that he should snub Parliament. Parliament, he must come. And of course, if he feels that there are issues that cannot be discussed, that will compromise investigations, he should come to Parliament and say that if I reveal this will compromise. So I will only speak to this extent, because as you know, members, this is an ongoing investigation with the DCI. But he cannot not come. But then I must say that we must commend him for the work that he is doing. And we must also understand that one of the people under siege from the sugar cartels and everybody is actually one Fred Matiang'i.
Fair enough. Let me introduce my other guests who've now joined me in studio. Honorable Alice Wahome, MP Kandara, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you, Waihiga.
And Advocate Joy Mdivo, karibu sana.
Thank you for having me as well.
I think you've both heard a little bit about the direction this discussion has taken. I can give you a chance now to share your thoughts. The front page of the Daily Nation, and maybe we can just review that briefly. Ruto allied MP links Uhuru Kin to sugar. But papers tabled in Parliament show that although Uhuru Kenyatta's firm is licensed to import sugar, possibly for use in dairy processing, it did not bring in any during the duty-free scandal window opened by Treasury last year, and you can get more details on page 2. While on the front page of the Standard, Matiang'i in trouble with MPs over sugar, and furious MPs have accused the Interior CS of showing contempt for Parliament by snubbing numerous committee summons. Honorable Home, I think I'll start with you. And you know how we left this discussion last week with more questions and answers over the whole sugar controversy. Are the issues around sugar now clearer to you 1 week later, or do you still feel that there are a lot of loopholes and gaps that still don't make sense, in your view as a legislator?
Okay, Wahiga, thank you very much for having me in this discussion. May I first say that, and it's good that we greet our viewers. Thank you. It's good manners to greet our viewers. Thank you very much, Wahiga. Last time I actually said that corruption is presenting a false face, and that the faces of women that were being brought around that time because of NYS and other issues were the wrong faces. I think now we are starting to see the real faces of corruption in this country. And you can see it's a heavyweight men plus men plus men. And this country is actually now going on its knees because of these issues. The debate about sugar is unfortunate. Most unfortunate because for me, I would even maybe be willing to forgive or to actually be lenient to some extent if it was mere importation. But we are now talking about sugar that is said to be laced. Last time, the media had said that the lacing, or the debate about mercury, in fact, the whole of last week, the debate about mercury, copper, all these chemicals was not entirely true. To date, I don't think Kenyans have the real story, because it's Matiang'i who came out, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who came out with that, and very, very controversial, because what we need now is the details. Is the sugar in the market, in the stores? And I hear what the sugar we have around can take the country for another 6 years. Yani we have stored for about 6 years. So we'll be taking mercury, copper and lead, if that were the case, for the next 5 years. Obviously, I don't think as a country, in terms of our security, our health, that we shall be able to survive. Therefore, when we now see, last week I think there were, the cartels appeared to be taking the show in terms of fighting each other, cutting throat each other in terms of who is to blame, where is the blame. But so now we are now coming to the question of even the imported sugar is actually brought to the country without payment of duty. You see, now that's another major corruption, because you can imagine the kind of duty that the country is going to lose if this is what happened. And then secondly is like everybody from the last disclosures from Parliament, again, it's like everybody and anybody was allowed to actually import sugar. So where are we with this debate? Where we are is that the Kenyan farmer that my sister here is talking about is actually left where the coffee farmer, where I come from, we don't have sugar, but they have sugar. Those regions, they are now being left where the Kenyan coffee farmer was left. There was this who used to grow coffee, like she has been brought up and maybe educated through coffee process. I have been educated through coffee process, while hers is sugar process. I mean, those products are dead. If we have this kind of amount of sugar, then there is no need of production. And obviously, they will do everything possible to ensure that production is actually erased. And even if the market were to receive farmers' production or sugar, then obviously the prices will also not be good. So what are we doing? So that is maize, sugar, fertilizer. I mean, there is no end to this. Are they musical chairs, or are they circus? Are they circus, or are they mysteries? Let's not even bother about this. I think we haven't heard. Actually, the executive has been contradicting itself. You saw when Minister Kijuri went to Parliament, he sent the blame, or he placed the blame somewhere. And that was maybe mainly in the Ministry of the Treasury. Then, of course, we don't know what Treasury will say. We could also say it's agriculture. And these are things that happened last year. How come we did not check? You know, if an error occurred, then we ought to have then gone back and say, oh, wait a minute, the amounts, you know, the total amounts, the quantities must be checked. The people to bring must be known, and who is to bring without, you know, who is going to benefit from waiver. And you know, you can only benefit from waiver maybe because there is a shortage that we're talking about. And I don't think it is the shortage issue. It is really stealing. I think the word is stealing.
The word is stealing. Joy.
We should stop calling it corruption. It is stealing. And in fact, I have stopped using the word corruption. I use theft. They are thieves. They are stealing. What they're doing is wrong. Because corruption has become romanticized. It's almost one of these things where when you say it's corruption, it's not as bad as if you say it is theft. And we should call it by its name. But now let me bring the other perspective, because in my opinion, all this rises and falls on the type of policies that we also implement. What do I mean by this? You'll find that time somebody will implement a policy that from tomorrow, everybody must wear a red tie. And they're doing that knowing full well that their buddies have already ordered red ties from China. They're on the high seas and they're on the way coming. And so tomorrow the deadline passes and everybody must wear a red tie. And there's no shortage of supply of red ties, and you wonder, these red ties were made by elves during the night. Now, I'm using that analogy to say sometimes our policies and our technocrats and our parliamentarians do some things thinking that this is just plain simple, it's a scandal for maize. But most probably, if you ask me, we need to give investigators time to find out who are the machinizers behind this, because you look at the moratorium being given on importation of sugar. It was just, you know, a little paragraph. There are no parameters like it is only sugar processors or only sugar companies that can show they had a shortfall. There were no limits as to who could. So if you table me a list of 300 people who are importing sugar, I mean, if I had the mass or even me, I think I would have imported sugar, looked for a warehouse in Mombasa Road and started the biashara. I agree with what Honorable Wanga was saying. If we're allowing importation of sugar because there is a clear shortage that our capacity cannot handle, it makes sense. But what we do in Kenya these days is we create room for people to make money, individuals to make money. And that's what's killing the rest of Kenyans. Yesterday I put an update on my wall and I said it's not poverty that is causing corruption. It's actually corruption that is causing poverty. Because these 300 companies will import sugar and they'll be very happy that they've imported sugar and they will make a lot of money from the rest of us. But all the farmers now are starting to look for alternatives. Do you know the places where you've been planting sugar, that soil has been put so much fertilizers and chemicals to produce the sugar that it's actually poisoned soil. It doesn't do very well with other crops when you try to switch. So it's already your ability to produce is already impaired by your involvement in this. But over and above that, let's also bring the blame to ourselves as citizens. When we see such things, you want to tell me the people who live around and about these warehouses, there were no people who could see that there is something wrong. We don't know when to blow the whistle on something that we ought to blow the whistle on. Back to us as the media as well. Today now I'll sit with media because I'm here with you. Look at like today's headline for The Nation. You say one thing, we all think, oh, then you have a little subtitle at the bottom to negate what you just said. Why don't you just speak the truth as the truth is supposed to be? Let's stop with sensationalism. We're trying. Let's get the bottom of things, because even with the allegations that are being leveled, if we have one allegation that is leveled that is proven untrue, another that is leveled that is proven untrue, there'll come a time when you're leveling a fair accusation. But we are so used to this one also, this one also.
Then no one will believe you.
And then now also to us on the law side, when you find, for example, somebody is being charged with attempted murder. You know, I was sitting with a group of lawyers and look, attempted murder of whom? How many Kenyans take sugar? How many Kenyans took that sugar? As in, where was the murder being planned? Because, you know, murder has very specific ingredients. There has to have been the conspiracy, the intention, the target. So you're setting up the charge to fail. Why are we doing this? You'd rather have one good charge that sticks. Like negligence, for example. You ought to have made sure that this is safe. You did not do your duty as you ought to have. That's something that can be proved, that can stick, you can get a good conviction. Higher, you come up with charges that are pie in the sky charges. We are just all not doing, we are not working smarter. We are working harder. And sometimes I find it might be the intention to scuttle, somebody said it's as clear as mud, to try and just make this thing as opaque as possible, but have as much activity as possible, so that by the time it's 2 years and you'll be like, we tried. Didn't we try and did we fail?
Kenyans will be tired and focus on something else.
We better be serious as Kenyans. We better be serious.